Hello and welcome to Perspectives, where we take a deep dive into the issues of the day and where we take a look at people's opinion on such issues. I am Ruth Osime.
And I am Olatorera Majekodumi Oniru.
Well, as you can see, our session is taking place. The rites of passage of Queen Elizabeth II, who died on Thursday at the age of 96, are continuing today. Amid a torrent of tributes from all over the world, each and every message have carried with them a recognition of the departed monarch's selfless contributions to the sustenance of global peace and harmony over the period that she reigned. And this has come from a cross-section of political leaders, captains of industry, and champions of hundreds of humanitarian causes that she passionately supported during her lifetime.
This outpouring of emotions.
So as you can see, there are 3 chairs from the crowd, casually dressed for that matter. Mm-hmm. This is the first time such an event is taking place on TV or social media.
In the past 75 years.
Yes.
And we know that there was no social media back when the Queen was ascertaining the throne.
Yes, there was none.
This is the very first time, and it's exciting to see that people can attend this event casually dressed and able to actually capture it on social media on their devices.
Yes, and even feeling some sense of involvement.
Exactly.
Because, of course, as usual, we have some of the PMs like Theresa May, Boris Johnson, Tony Blair, David Cameron, all turning up, to pay their respects to a monarch that, was reigned supreme and was scandal-free. And I think involving people or people witnessing this process makes them feel connected to the Queen a lot more.
Absolutely.
She was a queen of the people after all. Apart from being the Queen of Great Britain and the head of the Commonwealth, she was also a queen that was loved by many.
I agree. So there are millions of people around the world watching this today.
Yes, it's a very interesting moment and a very interesting time. Don't you wish you were there? I wish I was there.
I wish I was there
to at least witness it. But this is just going to be one of the many moments that will ring and resonate in time to come.
Absolutely.
So it's a good thing that this is happening. And I also feel that over time we'll begin to appreciate more and more the long-term effect of her reign. Okay, so and anyway, aside from the ceremonial duty that is demanded from a procession like this, I think we should also delve into the woman herself. A lot of people don't really know what the Queen was like as a person, so we're going to start that now. To get into this conversation about the person of the late Queen of England, we are now being joined by British muralist, artist, and children's book author, Polly Alakija. Polly is the Director General of the Shehu Musa Yaradua Foundation, an initiative that aims at propagating the vision and legacies of the former Nigerian president, whose name it bears. Born in Britain, Polly moved to Nigeria upon marrying her Nigerian husband, and most of her work focuses on Nigerian-themed concepts. Some of this artwork can be seen across the landscape of Lagos. Good to have you here, Polly.
Welcome.
Thank you. Lovely to be here. Thank you. I hate to do this, but I have to correct your introduction just a little bit. The foundation was set up in the name of the late Shehu Musa Yaradua, the brother of the late president.
Thanks for the correction. Now, we've been talking about the Queen a lot, but there's a new kid on the block, so to speak, and that is King Charles III. So I would like to share some of your views of him, or some of your perspectives of him as a new king. What's your take on that?
Oh, thank you for inviting me here, and thank you for asking that question. You said the new kid on the block, and I think the first thing we would all say is he's hardly a kid.
Well,
yes, I agree. But I think also we could look at that. He's in his 70s. Is he 73? He's 73, yes. Whereas the Queen Elizabeth II, was, I believe, 25 when she became queen. And so she had little time to prepare to become queen, and I know that when she became queen, that was the uppermost in her mind, that how do I take on this huge responsibility at my young age? She hadn't expected her father to pass then. So there wasn't this lifetime of preparation that King Charles III has been able to have.
Yeah,
so
he has.
Exactly, and the late Queen had that in mind as well. You could see in her latter years the succession plan actively being put in place. The late Queen didn't have that luxury of having years and years of mentorship of her father. So that's a big difference. So no, he is in one way the new kid on the block, but he's not a child.
Well,
he's a mature king. He's a mature king.
But another thing I have to wonder is that having lived in the Queen's shadow for so long, you know, I mean, like you said, when the Queen was ascended the throne, she was barely 25, give or take, and she groomed herself into the role. But Prince Charles, for instance, has been in the shadow for so long that people wonder whether or not he can really step into her shoes. So as much as it's an advantage for him because he's ripe enough or more than ripe enough for this role, what are the side effects? What do you feel that, you know, he might be judged too harshly? Because you have to make allowances for the fact that he can make mistakes. He would obviously go through a few banana peels in his role as king. So do you think the British might be too harsh on him should that time come? What would you...
I think there's a likelihood they're going to be harsh because we all loved our Queen. And we are all human, so we all trip up, we all slip and make mistakes. And the British royal family is that, it's a family, so yes, they make mistakes. Families tend to be messy. Now Charles, he's in his 70s. He's clearly passionate about very many causes, been patron of how many hundreds of charities. And we know a lot about his passions, his passion for conservation, his passion for arts. Climate change. And he's been quite outspoken at times, his passion about homeopathy, for example. So there's been many areas where he's put himself out there to be criticised. But he was Prince Charles then. He's now King Charles III. It's a very different role. And I think he actually acknowledged that and spoke to that in his speech yesterday.
Yeah. It was so moving.
It was very on point and very, he made that point that this is now a new phase of my life. Yeah. Is he going to make mistakes? Of course he's going to make mistakes. Are we going to criticise him? Yes, we're going to criticise him. But I hope the British and the broader family of the Commonwealth will embrace him as a human being and support him and love him too, as we've all loved the Queen.
Well, speaking of his speech, did you notice the part where he spoke about his children and he spoke about Harry and Meghan? I also spoke about William and Kate. I think he inserted that just to send the message across that, look, Harry might not be the top favorite right now because of being estranged from the family somewhat. But I think it was endearing of him to make them inclusive in his speech, and in other words, love me, love my child kind of thing. So I'm hoping that the British press or the British people will take a cue from that and, you know, give Harry not breathing space, but be a bit more receptive of him, because sometimes death can draw people closer. So I'm thinking as we mourn the Queen, you know, so shall we embrace her offsprings and, you know, encourage Harry to maybe come back into the system.
And Meghan.
Well, Meghan issue, you know, you and I are on different sides of the fence concerning that, but let's not get too political, but, you know, maybe they'll be more embracing of Meghan this time around. And then another thing that was pointed out was the fact that Camilla was now the king's consort. If you remember 70 years ago, this would never have happened. I mean, Edward abdicated his throne for the love of his life, Wallis Simpson. I'm sure if Wallis was alive now, she'd be like, oh, aren't you the lucky one? Because in her time, it was unacceptable. And this in itself also explains how the royal family and the firm or establishment as it is are also evolving to accommodate the changes that we're all experiencing now. And I feel that Charles, to a certain extent, was, like you said, has had the advantage of being an understudy of the Queen for literally all his life. So the transition would nowhere be as difficult as it was for his mother 70 years ago when she was forced, literally, to take on the reins. Yes. And I think that with Charles, he's definitely going to have to, he cannot be as vocal as he was when it comes to politics, the way he might have been in the past. He's going to have to study and learn how to manage and be diplomatic about certain things, because right now, he's now king. So he doesn't really have an opinion as to which government he supports, but he has to show understanding, appreciation. I mean,
absolutely.
Liz Truss is how old? 47. He's 73. That's the first PM he's dealing with. The Queen, when she was Queen, was in her 20s and she was dealing with a Winston Churchill who was well into his 70s. So it's almost like a reversal of role of sorts. You know, the Queen must have been intimidated when she met Winston Churchill that first time, but she managed it quite well. I think Charles now has that advantage.
Absolutely.
You know.
I can see Harry and Meghan being embraced back into the royal family. I can see them actually coming back and embracing their Duke and Duchess titles.
Do you think
and
so?
Actually...
Well, I think we'll see, and we'll find out over time. But to speak to your point earlier about how will King Charles be criticised? Will we be judging him? Will we be harsh on him? And you said at the moment, sort of, Harry's not so much in the immediate fold of the family, but we still all love Harry. So we criticise Harry because we love Harry too.
Yes,
I think we would all love to see Harry back in the family fold and part of the family team and actively involved in the family duties. I think everybody would love to see that, which speaks to your point, like we are critical at the moment because I think we feel a bit hurt that they've left. I think we would all love to see them back. To your point about Camilla being Queen Consort, I absolutely agree with you that the late Queen made a point of ensuring her succession plan was put in place. She made a point a couple of years ago of announcing that on her passing, Camilla will be recognised as the Queen Consort. So it is different days, and yes, the Queen had time to put in place a succession plan to ensure that Camilla was accepted and acknowledged as the Queen Consort. And to the fact and to the point of a king, a monarch, having to be non-partisan, I think too, yes, we'll see a shift in King Charles and how he's perceived and how he will carry out his duties. He is obligated to be non-partisan. It'll be interesting to see how William carries out his duties as the Prince of Wales and see whether he's going to delve and be a bit political, just as his father was when he was Prince of Wales.
Yes.
That role maybe allows a bit of flexibility in that regard, whereas the role of the monarch, you have got to be non-partisan. So I think we're going to see a considerable shift in Charles and and his profile.
So what is the significance of King Charles' formal proclamation and what should we expect next?
Goodness me, you're asking me? Well, I hope we see acceptance of him and outpouring of love. Of course, we will be watching the funeral next week, the state funeral.
Right. We still have about a year till the coronation.
Yeah. Exactly.
We still
Exactly.
mourning
the mourning period.
So what do we expect next in the immediate future? A lot of pomp and a lot of ceremony, which I have to say is one thing that Britain and Nigeria have in common. Both Nigeria and Britain are good at pomp and ceremony and traditional ceremony. So I know we've got a year of great spectacle ahead of us with the funeral and then leading up.
Britain an arm and a leg.
Right.
I hear the whole process between the coronation and the funeral itself. We estimated to spend at least about $6 billion, £6 billion.
Yes.
I mean, in comparison to the Queen, who was 25 years old and on vacation in Kenya at the time when she knew she would become Queen, he has had 73 years to be immersed in it. He was born into it, and I think he'll be much more prepared
I think
to
lead. Pretty smartly. I think he's had enough time.
Exactly.
He's had enough time, and I think the Queen's succession plan, she's been working on it for very many years. The mentorship that we've seen of Prince William, that's been clear and it's been strategic and very deliberate. Not only Prince William, but the rest of the royal family. Her duties have been, over the last decade, been gradually handed out across the members of the firm.
And Charles also was playing more roles. He was becoming more, representing his mother in quite a few roles. Over the last 2 years or so, he's been more thrust into the public eye. So I think subconsciously, people have begun to understand that his time was coming and quite receptive of him becoming king. And I don't think the transition is going to be that difficult for him.
At all.
I mean, he's lived this, he's been an understudy, so to speak, for all his life. So I think he would adjust properly. And I think Camilla as well. The good thing about Camilla was that there was a time she was the most hated woman in Britain because she was seen as the person that the cause of Charles's breakup with Diana. But over time, she's won people over. She has conducted herself in a manner that has made her more acceptable. I also feel Camilla had the advantage of age as well, and to prepare herself for this role and to better embrace it, to make her almost like the mother of the nation as she will be seen now. So I think for both of them, this is just the right time. Not necessarily the right time, they could have done it 10, 15 years ago, but they are more than prepared to take on the mantle. Likewise, Prince and Princess of Wales, that's William and Kate, I think they themselves too are prepared to take on the role that they now have.
Yes, and I think Camilla, her role and how we've come to accept her speaks to the point of what is monarchy there for, and why do we turn to our monarchy, especially in terms of crisis or when there's a national disaster. Look at what happened during COVID. We turn to the monarchy for consistency, for stability, for this never-changing backdrop to our lives. And so I think that's what we've...
Our comfort zone.
Exactly.
Our support base.
Yeah, as opposed to the political space, which is always somewhat turbulent. So that is part of the role of the monarchy. So we don't like it when it's disturbed and disrupted. We want it to be solid, stable. Again, just like a family. We like stable families. We don't like disruptive families. We need that comfort zone. Yes. And to me, that's a lot of why we have the monarchy.
Comfort zone and stability. Whether we like it or not, the world has evolved. And I think the monarchy as well might not have evolved as fast as modern day times are, but to a certain extent, they also have to keep pace with what the world is saying and today's times. So do you think King Charles would embrace modernizing the royal family? With this, taking this into consideration?
I think he's obliged to. I think it's not a question of will he. He has to, and he will, and it will. His sons will make sure that happens as well. So he is 73. That transition to embracing a modern monarchy might not be directly implemented by him, but it will happen by sheer passage of time and the fact that this is a modern world and we do things differently. I think we'll see a lot of things will not change.
I think we'll see a lot more things. We'll see a lot of things will not change, like you rightfully said. But there already has been a change. I mean, absolutely. Harry married a black woman.
Yes.
No, I mean, I'm not talking about a racist card or what have you. The truth of the matter is, 20, 30 years ago, that would never have happened.
Yeah.
And Kate also is, to use the word, doesn't have any royal blood. So I think gradually, the changes are already starting to occur. They will just probably occur more now that he's king to stay relevant to the times. Because you don't want to get so outdated that they don't see your relevance anymore and just see you as a trophy. Yeah. So I think Charles embracing the modernization of the royal family will be the most welcome change. But I hope it won't be too extreme. Because at the end of the day, the royal family is literally sacrosanct.
Yes. Well, I don't think we're going to see extreme overhauls of the British monarchy.
But I think that's unlikely. In the right direction. A few changes here and there. And I hope it's also well handled. Because, like, I keep having to go back to the Meghan issue. That has almost, not had the kind of effect that we wanted.
Yes, I think everybody caught unawares of the power of social media and how you can use media for better and for worse. So I think the monarchy will have to become more savvy in that regard if they want to have a more stable relationship with media.
But I like the fact that when Harry was still dating Meghan before they married, the letter that he actually wrote telling the press to go easy on his partner. I don't know whether 20 years ago the royal home or house would have done that.
Yeah.
So I think this is a way of cultivating a relationship, a symbiotic relationship with the press. You can only go so far. Do you understand? And I think in Prince Charles's case, he will probably interact more with the press. He will probably make more public, obviously, appearances. And I loved the fact that he connected with the people. Remember when he came out and he was shaking hands and, thanking people for coming. I think those things go a long way in giving them a human face. And I think that is one thing that Charles has mastered over the years. I don't know if you recall, there was a video that was done, I think, in the 60s. So, and in the 60s, and it was about their personal life and what have you. That wasn't really taken, it didn't really sit well with the crowd because they thought they were a bit too removed from reality. But I can see changes, and that those changes were most welcome in getting people involved to a certain extent into their lives.
Absolutely. It is a very different royal family. It is fast becoming a modern royal family. And, regarding the relationship with the press, any relationship is a work in progress.
Yes.
And all relationships have their rocky moments.
Oh, yes.
No relationship is perfectly formed from the beginning. So it will continue to develop. There will continue to be blips and issues, but such is life. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, Pauline Alakija. We're glad to have had you on the show today, Perspectives, and we look forward to another time with you.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to be here, and I'm deeply honored to be here today.
Thank you so much.